What's going on, boys and girls, and welcome back to Feeki Flips, the most dumbed down real estate channel on all of YouTube, because if I can make money doing this, then so can you. Today, we got a lead here in Northwest Reno, so we're gonna go check out the house. It's vacant. I'll take you guys along with me, and then we'll hop onto the computer and I'll show you guys exactly how we run numbers, estimate rehab, and get this seller an offer. So without further ado, let's go check out the house. Kind of a funny story with this one. The guy that sent this to me, he is another investor in town. This was a rental for him. And actually the first ever real estate meetup that I ever went to, which was probably about 5.5 years ago, he was actually the speaker there. And he was talking about marketing, like sending direct mail and like finding his own deals and all that stuff. And like, this is when I didn't even know if wholesaling was like a real thing or if it would work in our area and stuff like that. So he actually helped me a lot indirectly and directly too, because then after that, I hit him up and went to lunch with him, and at that lunch meeting he actually gave me the contract that he used when he went off market to buy deals directly from the seller, and we used that contract until, I don't know, probably about a year ago. Basically word for word, changed a couple little things here and there, and I've given that contract to a ton of local people that are getting into wholesaling and flipping. So a ton of people have used this guy's contract. I haven't talked to him for a while. He doesn't really flip anymore. I think he's like retiring, and yeah, he just randomly sent me an email for this deal and said, hey, you know, what's your best cash price for this? Here's the lockbox code. Go take a look at it. So I'll run you guys through the house real quick, and tenants definitely did some work on this one. This isn't our typical process. This is a little bit different just because I know him and it's, you know, it's a referral lead. Typically, if we are getting a lead, like any type of lead except for a referral, I wouldn't be here just to shoot photos. Unless the seller was like out of state where they literally can't be here with us, we always meet with the seller, because that's when you take them through the sales process, and your whole goal of being on the appointment is to get the deal in contract. Like I said, this one's a little bit different, and since we're not really buying anything right now, once we get back to the office and we run through the numbers, I'll tell you guys exactly like what my pitch is going to be to the seller on this one. But let's check out the house. So this one's pretty gross. I haven't even looked at public record yet to see when he bought this, but you can tell that it was flipped at some point. So I'm guessing he probably bought this off market. I would say maybe like 2014, 15, 16, somewhere in there based on the look of the kitchen. And he likely flipped the home and then just decided to hold it as a rental instead of sell it to a retail buyer, because, you know, you can see it's got the two-tone paint, the new baseboards, it's got the LVP flooring in it. It had a brand new kitchen in it at one time. Unfortunately, can probably save it, but you know, some of these drawers are pretty fucked up. Had the countertops done, all that stuff was new at that time. Likely left this tile that was in here from the previous owner. He didn't scrape the popcorn last time, just did like fixtures and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty basic job here that he did, but definitely the tenants were a bit hard on equipment. Hopefully you guys can see like how dirty all this shit is. Definitely never cleaned the house, and had a bunch of kids living here too. Always got the mermaids up here, LED strips. That's always popular with the kids these days. Looks like he did windows when he bought this one last time. We'll go outside as well right after this. Flip on the light here. So this was all new, same style as the kitchen. I don't know if he did that tub. Looks like he did the surround when he bought it back then. Older furnace, so he probably did not replace that. You can see the flooring is all messed up in here. Bedrooms are kind of just bedrooms. There's not much to show. Master bath, looks like he did vanity in here as well. Same surround as the other bathroom. Tile, like I said, I'm guessing that was already here from the previous owner. Outside looks pretty good. You can see all those windows were replaced before. The roof, I would guess that he did the roof on it. Looks pretty new to me, so it looks like we're all good there. Not all that much to show in the backyard. It looks like this fence is kind of almost downed. Definitely needs some repair there. The panel, older, and I'm not an electrician or a rehab expert by any means, so probably would let that ride. I don't think you'd need to replace that, but I could be wrong. And looks like we just have this. This is the AC unit for the home. and no actual AC unit. It's like a swamp cooler. So the home's ducted. Obviously, you can see it right there. So if we wanted to upgrade that, we could put a real AC unit in it. And then I think the only thing I missed in here was water heater, which is either right here. Yeah. So a water heater, that's definitely been replaced. So we would let that ride, assuming that it's functional. So before we go back to the office and run comps and run rehab and get this guy an offer, just so you guys know, our typical process is, we have the call with the seller where we gather a bunch of information about the condition of the property. And then basically that first call is only for that. And then to set the appointment to come meet with them at the house, if we're talking about local deals here in Northern Nevada. From there, we send the deal to underwriting. So we make sure that we get enough information about the deal on that first call that we can be accurate on our rehab numbers before we come out here and meet with the seller. And then for our appointment process, once we get here, we have the seller tour us through the property, take a bunch of photos. We use an app called Company Cam, so it just sends all the photos and videos to the cloud, and it doesn't junk up your phone with tons and tons of photos like my phone still is from years ago from a bunch of different houses. And then after that, we sit down with the seller, talk about goals for the sale, timelines, all that stuff before we actually make them an offer. And then if all goes well, it's all good with the seller, sign the purchase agreement right there, and we get the ball rolling for title and escrow and all that stuff. All right, guys, back to run some numbers on this. I already did a lot of the work, so this video doesn't take 45 minutes, but there's plenty of videos on YouTube on like how to comp, how to run numbers on rehab. I'll just do a brief overview on how I do it real quick. So first thing I'm going to do is punch in the address on Batch or the county assessor's website. So there's a affiliate link to Batch in the video description, so you guys can use that if you don't have Batch already. I'm going to use MLS for comps just because I'm more used to that, but you can definitely comp on Batch as well. It has all the MLS data on there. I'm just using it right now just for this stuff here, just the bedroom, bathroom square footage and year built, just so I can see what that is on the property that we're looking at here. So first thing I'm going to do is find our after repair value by pulling comps. So hopping into MLS, and that's exactly what I did here. Basically, our property's right here. So I'm going to try to get as close as we can. I'm just knowing the area in Northwest Reno here. This is all, basically the same as far as like neighborhood goes, with a little bit of variation here and there, but that's where I drew my box. If I needed more results, you can see there's a ton of results here. Obviously, I would go farther out, but we want to get as close as possible as far as neighborhood, and then looking at the comps for the home type, getting as close as we can on that as well. So these ones that I wanted to look at are the ones that are highlighted. You can see like these are all the comps, and really the criteria here that I'm pulling is just all of the statuses and 6 months back, and that's it, because I want to be able to see everything. There's no condos in that area really. See, there's one right here. The rest of it is SFR. We're not looking at multifamily, so we're basically just looking at single family homes. And then from there, we want to get as close as we can on year built, square footage, bedroom, bathroom, garage, and stories and acreage area, all that stuff. So this one here is an exact comp. And this one is really interesting to look at because you can see it's listed on here twice. That tells me, without even clicking into here, that this is a flip. You can see that it sold for $330 back in, I guess, right at the end of the year. And it just went back on market, 2 months after that. And then obvious flip right there. So we can look at this, and not only is it a flip, it's on the same street. So it's the neighbor's house and it's the same exact house. So like this is as good of a comp as we can get. So then we're going to go ahead and look at this, and a lot of it is very, very similar to ours. You can see that they did paint, flooring. They put a brand new kitchen in here. They did butcher block, little backsplash, and just scroll through these real quick. So they opted to do the cheaper route, which is carpet through some of the home, LVP in the rest, which is totally acceptable in this neighborhood. We've done the same thing in this neighborhood. Looks to me like they did a roof and window. No, it looks like the windows are still like aluminum. Maybe did a roof on it. And then obviously like this, they left because it was probably in decent shape. So this isn't like a full rehab like I'm about to show you guys in a second. Just kind of a middle of the road, which is really like what this property that we just looked at would be. So this is like all we could ask for. The only thing with this is that it's still active. This hasn't sold for $550 yet, but it is under contract. If I wanted to get super, super accurate, I could call up the listing agent here. There's a phone number, and they're not supposed to tell you, but you can usually get a good idea of where they're in contract at. And then you can also find out some information by looking at the remarks. So this is one advantage of having MLS, because you can see the private remarks here. So you can see like all the inspections are here, like they scoped the sewer, and you can see kind of what they did. You'd be able to see all of this on Batch as well. If it's a flip, they're usually going to list their improvements here, which we kind of just went through. And yeah, so that's a super good comp. It took a month to get into contract, which is pretty average right now. So I would assume that, $450 450 is probably pretty close. But then I'm not going to go through each one of these with you guys, but I did want to show you, I think it was this one here. This one was also a flip. And then also just one aside here, we want to get as close as we can on date too. So like the sooner it was off market, so this one was in 2023. You can see these ones were 2022. And I even went up to this one here because this is, this just closed 10 days ago. And even though this one's older, smaller, it went 430, which really helps support the fact that I think we're going to go 450 because this one just closed at 430 and it's worse. So we'll look at this one here. Knowing the area, West 7th is like the main street up there. So we definitely have a better location than this one. And then this is like a full rehab here. So like this one got brand new kitchen, new windows. I haven't looked at this yet, really just spitballing here, but definitely did the roof, windows, typical flip, like didn't touch the landscaping at all. It's got the work truck marks in the driveway still. Doesn't really matter. But you can see they did everything on the interior to this house. So this one was a pretty heavy lift. Left the fireplace there, all new bathroom, new surround. So they did everything. Another new bathroom. And then if we go to the remarks, I clicked out, but you could see, if you guys caught that, there's a brand new AC unit sitting there as well. So this one says new roof, water heater, AC, furnace, flooring, carpet, interior, exterior paint, bathrooms, much, much more. So this is a full rehab. So that's what I'm saying here is that, this one would be nicer than the one that we just looked at here on 530, Nancy, and would be nicer of what basically anyone's going to do to the house that we just looked at, but it's in a shittier location. It's a little bit smaller. It's a bit older, and it still went for 443. That's the sold price here, the SP. So that again supports my 450 for us being like updated, but not completely 100% brand new, just like this one. So yeah, I don't think there's really, those were the three that I wanted to show you guys just for pulling ARV. And then obviously you can look through these ones. Some of these have closed lower, and then you can go in and see why. I'll just show you real quick this other one, what it looked like before they flipped it. And so you can see, like, this is like what we would call a time capsule house. Like, this is all original, everything. It's probably like single owner or something. It's got the original carpet in it. Pretty common to find these in Northwest Reno. And yeah, so it looks like they probably upgraded this kitchen at some point, but the rest of it, this was like an old person's house for sure. Nothing terribly wrong with it, just needs a light updating. So that's why they did what they did with that flip. We can see here in the remarks, not too much info. And then it's also helpful because we can see that someone paid $330,000 for that. So likely we know our offer might be somewhere in there. Everyone runs their numbers a little bit differently, but that's kind of what I was thinking when I was out there as well. So we have our ARV. I think I'm going to do 450 on that. I think that's pretty reasonable. We have a higher comp here at 485, but it's two stories and it is bigger, and that's going to be a little bit different location. And we had a really high comp here, 513, but it sold, last year, and that's going to be a better location as well. So this is obviously the closest that we can get. I like this one because it's a slightly shittier location, but really close by, and it's also a flip. So those two tell me that like 450 is pretty reasonable to run this one at. So now that we have our ARV, this is our pro forma that we run our numbers in. I'm going to pop that in here. Next number we need to figure out is our rehab. So I'm going to hop over to our photos and I can review these. Since I shot that video and then I did the photos for the company cam, I did notice a couple more things that I didn't notice when I was doing the quick walkthrough with you guys. Mostly like, the kitchen, like underneath here, that's a great photo. You can really fucking see what I was trying to show in that, but here it is. There's definitely some water damage because this has been leaking for a while underneath here. And then we spotted, those drawers right here were kind of messed up. So this kitchen, that granite looks a little bit old school, and it sucks that the kitchen was only done like probably 4 or 5 years ago. Might need a new kitchen or just kind of fix it up, do countertops again, replace that water damage part, replace some of the drawers and call it a day. And then also on the back side of the house, well, one, we have in the front, we have a lot of deteriorated concrete, but it's funny, this is why looking at your comps closely is important. On this one, the neighboring house has the same shit. If you look at this in the front, see it has the deteriorating concrete as well. So usually, like, unless it's really, really bad as a flipper, you don't really touch that stuff because it's like extra cost and it doesn't boost the value all that much. So likely if we were going to flip this or whoever ends up flipping this, they're probably not going to replace the driveway, and our best comp also has a deteriorated driveway, so probably would just leave that. but that was one thing that I kind of noticed on the way out. And then, in the back, I'm trying to find a photo of the roof. There it is here. The roof actually looked much worse from the back side of the house. That's where it gets hit on the sun than the front. The front looked like it was a pretty new roof. And you can see here all this light stuff coming through. That's like the fiberglass showing on the shingles because all of the like little asphalt, little pebbles has started to fall off of the shingles. So again, there was no sign of water damage or that this roof has failed from inside. But especially when you're wholesaling, like all this stuff, this is the shit that like you kind of get too optimistic when you're running your numbers, like, oh, we could let it ride. And then you show it to buyers and they're going to be like, the first thing you said, well, it needs a roof because they're trying to get a better deal on it. Same thing goes for that ARV. That was something that I wanted to bring up real quick. It's like, yeah, we have a 513 here, but if I'm running my numbers, I'm not going to be like 513, our ARVs, 510, 515, because if you're going to wholesale, like you're just shooting yourself in the foot because the buyers, the first thing they're going to say is like, dude, this one right down the street that's the best comp is in contract 450. Where are you getting 515 from? Even if there is a comp, they're always going to tell you about the lowest comps. So there's no point to overestimate my ARV by $45,000 only to find out that all the buyers are going to tell me that it's 450 when I market this property. So run through the photos, estimate rehab on this one. Originally, when I was out there, I was like, yeah, someone could definitely do this for about 30. I think this is more like 45 again, because yes, you could do it for 30 and someone could do everything I'm talking about for 30 as well, because everyone's numbers are a little bit different, especially if you're doing the work yourself. But just like on average, if we were going to flip this house, this is a $45,000 rehab because we're going to be 15 in the roof and then 30 for just kind of updating what's already been done inside and then possibly replacing, new AC units, probably 4 or 5 grand, get rid of the swamp cooler, stuff like that. So you could easily spend 45 grand in there, but that one on 7th Street that's fully updated, they spent way more than that. That's probably like 60, 70, $80,000 rehab for our costs in our area here. Our houses in Alabama is about half that, but this is Northern Nevada pricing and subbing out all the work. So that's why if we hop back over to our pro forma, I threw 45 in there and then we can back into our offer that way. So the way that we run our numbers with our current market and for wholesaling is we're going to have our ARV, we're going to have our rehab, and then this pro forma, my partner built it so it's a little bit more accurate than like your wholesale formula, which I'll get into it in a second, just because we can manipulate a bunch of different variables, like how long the rehab is going to take us, how long it's going to sit on market, if we have any tenants in the property that we have to get rid of first. All of these timelines really add up with your holding costs, especially if you're borrowing money. We can have all of our loan costs in here, and then our closing costs, we're going to pay or split. So with the current market, we want to put about a 15% deal together for our profit. So if we were to flip this, and if these numbers are correct, if we bought this house for $305,000, we spent 45 in there, and we borrowed at these terms and sold it for 450, we can manipulate our commissions as well. We would make 53,000 in profit for this deal. Now, what we have found is if we're running our numbers this way and they're halfway accurate, we can wholesale this deal for about 20,000, 25,000 more than our offer. So if we were able to lock up this deal at 305, I am confident just from experience on the other deals that I would be able to wholesale this deal for about 330,000, which if you guys remember, this flip right down the street sold for 330,000. So again, that confirms that I think my numbers are pretty close and pretty accurate. So if you don't have all of these tools or this tool specifically, everyone uses that wholesale formula, ARV times whatever minus repairs. This is the equivalent. Let me see if I can pull up my calculator real quick. Okay, so for this deal specifically, if we were doing 450,000 times 0.8 minus 45,000, gives 315,000, minus a fee, say 10,000 bucks. That equals 305,000 for your max allowable offer. So you can see it's pretty close. That's why I think a lot of new people get hung up on this formula, because it's not exactly accurate. And just like when you do deals often, different neighborhoods, different type of deals, you can see that that multiplier gets manipulated quite a bit. There are deals around right now that you wouldn't be able to wholesale unless you did it for a 0.7 multiplier. Ones like this, Northwest Reno, really easy job for the most part. A lot of people would be interested in this deal. 0.8
definitely you could lock that deal up and get a pretty big fee on it, probably more than the 10,000 that I just put in here. So yeah, that's kind of take that multiplier with a grain of salt. Just kind of depends on the deal, market conditions, all that type of stuff.
So if this was just a normal lead for us, 305 would be the max offer. We would obviously start lower than there with the seller and then try to lock it up for that or less. Since this is a referral lead and it's from another buyer and he really just wants the easy button because he's retired and doesn't want to rehab it himself and then sell it the normal way, I'll just be completely transparent with him and say, hey, we're not really buying anything right now. This would be a wholesale and here's my numbers on it. If this was a normal lead, it would be a 305 offer, thinking that we could wholesale it to someone for about 330. So the two ways that we could go about this is like, if that's in range for him and he's good with like 305, 310, even like 315, we would just wholesale it like normal. He would just know exactly what we're doing. So then I would just market the property and then keep the fee. It would just be a normal wholesale. Or we could do some sort of JV where it's like, enter into contract at 305 and then split the fee, anything that we get above that just for dispoing it for him, something like that. So it could go a couple different ways, but it's not going to be treated just like a normal lead for us. So that about wraps it up for this episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, help us out with the YouTube algorithm. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions about what I just went over about numbers or rehab or anything like that. And we will see you on the next episode.